Hello, thank you for being here today. My name is Mary Pat, and I'd like to spend a few minutes discussing some common conditions and then using a clinical vignette to address the treatment of a family who are dealing with one of these conditions. We'll begin by looking at these 4 conditions, and we'll talk briefly about their etiology, their symptoms, and the diagnostic criteria we use for each. We are still learning what causes major depression, but it is believed to be caused by a combination of biological, social, and psychological influences. Among these are genes, adverse childhood experiences or ACEs and other trauma, disruptions in the endocrine system such as hormone issues, blood sugar, or thyroid problems, various illnesses, exposure to chemicals, including prescription and over-the-counter medications, chemo, street drugs, and environmental toxins, as well as brain injury. According to the DSM-5, the following symptoms are associated with major depression. In making a diagnosis, we look for the presence of 5 or more of these over a period of 2 weeks in which they occur nearly every day, with enough severity to cause distress and impairment in the individual's life. We would also verify that the symptoms are not attributable to a substance in the client's bloodstream or a different medical condition, and that they're not a response to a significant loss or event in the client's life. As in the case of major depression, the causes of bipolar disorder are still not definitively known. It has biological, social, and psychological components that are the subject of continuing study. It is known to run in families. Environmental influences, including chemical exposure and trauma, are also related to the onset of this condition, as well as its severity. The DSM-5 identifies these symptoms for bipolar disorder. They are associated with either a manic or hypomanic state, depending on the duration and severity of the symptoms. The exception is the psychotic features, hallucinations or delusions, which only occur in a manic episode. If 3 or more of the previous symptoms are present for a week, it is considered a manic episode, which is a component of bipolar 1. The symptoms contribute to significant distress and sometimes require hospitalization. If they are only present for 4 days and there are no psychotic features, it is classified as a hypomanic episode, which is associated with bipolar 2. These manic and hypomanic symptoms may alternate with major depressive episodes on a frequent or irregular basis. ADHD. The causes of ADHD are still unclear, but it is extremely heritable, as high as 70 to 80%, and it frequently occurs in children with high ACEs levels. A lack of activity and oxygenation in the prefrontal cortex of the brain is believed to cause many of the symptoms. This part of the brain is the region responsible for executive functioning, such as self-control, attention allocation, forethought, planning, and working memory. The DSM identifies these symptoms as markers of this condition. Many of these are reported by family members, teachers, or other observers as much as by the person suffering from the condition themselves. When a diagnosis is made, it is often specified as attention deficit with or without hyperactivity, and may also be identified as inattentive type, hyperfocused, impulsive, or even combination. The criterion are that 6 of the symptoms have persisted for at least 6 months, and if it's an adolescent or adult, only 5 symptoms are needed. The behavior needs to be inconsistent with the developmental level of that client. It impacts their social and occupational or academic functioning. They're present in 2 or more settings, and it's not attributable to another mental disorder, and it is not just oppositional behavior or failure to understand what is Substance use disorder, or SUD, is the fourth condition we will look at today. As with so many other behavioral health conditions, this one is known to result from a combination of biological, social, and psychological influences. Genetic predisposition, prenatal exposure, and parental use of drugs and alcohol are factors that influence the development of substance use disorder. Among the negative life experiences that have been shown to be serious risk factors are having parents who suffer from mental illness, enduring child abuse and maltreatment, having inadequate parental supervision, being surrounded by neighborhood poverty or violence or a local culture of drug abuse and addiction, being marginalized in society, and co-occurring mental illnesses. The symptoms of substance use disorder are tolerance, which means more of the substance is required to achieve the desired effect or to stave off withdrawal symptoms. Withdrawal, which is misery when the use is reduced or discontinued, and the desired effect becomes avoiding withdrawal more than anything else. Loss of control over use of the substance, using larger amounts or over a longer period of time than was originally intended, or unsuccessful efforts to cut down, or experiencing cravings, and then impairment in daily life, which we see in the form of using more and more time and energy and resources to acquire and consume the substance, failing to fulfill major role obligations in work or relationships, continued use in spite of negative consequences, and the recurrent use even when it's physically hazardous. We diagnose substance use disorder when we see 2 or more of these symptoms occurring over a 12-month period. A problematic pattern of use that is causing significant impairment or distress. Okay, let's look at our clinical vignette. Let's meet our case study client family. The Humphreys family are a middle-class family who live not far from here, and this is how they've introduced themselves to the therapist on their first meeting. Melanie is 15, a sophomore in high school, a swimmer on the long-distance relay team. Mason is 10, and he makes his own animated video clips both by hand and with computer-aided design programs. Maggie is a working mom. She's a manager and systems engineer at a local tech firm. And Mitchell is a landscape architect who owns his own business and specializes in corporate accounts for hotels, golf courses, and corporate headquarters sites. They arrived in the therapist's office as a result of Mason's diagnosis of ADHD by the school psychologist. He was identified as presenting symptoms of hyperactivity, inattentive type ADHD with hyperfocus. Here's what the family members had to say about Mason and his condition and how they experience it in their lives. Mason said, "When I'm in the zone, I love it. But my teachers and classmates don't like me because I mess things up." Melanie says, "He loses stuff and forgets things, and Mom stresses out." But she noted he has an amazing imagination. Mitchell says, "Mason notices interesting things when we go places." But he did concede that his room and his schoolwork are a disaster. And Maggie says, "So much chaos. It's exhausting. I'm worried about his future." So to sum that up, the impact on the family is that Mason appears to be underfunctioning and others have to compensate. And it looks like Mom's doing a lot of that, and maybe Melanie too. But the family can still see positives about Mason's different way of looking at things and going through life. Mason, the impact that he experiences is stigma at school and some stigma at home for his underfunctioning, and yet he can appreciate his superpower. The Humphreys family experience syncs up with what we know about ADHD. It can be a superpower in some ways, the ability to hyperfocus or get in the zone, the mental agility and problem solving because so many ideas are occurring to the person. the ability to be perceptive, noticing stimulus in the environment that other people are filtering out, and that seemingly endless energy. What a gift. But at the same time, it is a major stressor. The disorganization causes all kinds of chaos, especially for those in the family trying to maintain functionality. The emotional inattention can create pain and division in relationships. There's something called the ADHD tax, the added expense of lost items, dropped balls, missed deadlines, additional assistance needed at school, perhaps medications and treatment. ADHD is not an inexpensive condition for a family to manage. And then there's the bias that ADHD sufferers experience in society because they're non-neurotypical. And here's a fun fact that is about to rock the Humphreys family world. ADHD is extremely heritable. It is often recommended that other members of a family be screened when ADHD shows up. And when this client family was evaluated, here's what we discovered. Mitchell has it, Melanie has it, Maggie does not. This started a whole new conversation as each family member reflected on how ADHD has touched them personally and how they see that impacting their family and their relationships. Mason was glad to find out he's not the only one. He said, "I like it when we do crazy fun things together, but I feel sad when Dad forgets his promises." Mitchell noticed, "I am not as thoughtful a husband and father as I want to be, and I can tell that ADHD has affected my career." Melanie was surprised to find out that she has ADHD because she's been a really great performer in school, but she did say, "It's starting to affect me at school as the classes get harder." And she noted, "I see that Mom acts more like an adult than Dad does." Maggie, for her part, complained that no one seems to hear or see me unless I get upset. They are so carefree, but I feel so alone in shouldering the responsibilities. And they all wanted to know, can we change what we do without changing who we are? And the answer to their question is yes. Having ADHD poses challenges, but it also holds benefits for all. They just need to get good at managing it and making effective adaptations to their superpower. The treatment plan is going to consist of what could be oversimplified as skills and pills. The therapist will spend a considerable amount of time educating them about how an ADHD brain works, helping them reframe and destigmatize some of their experiences, understanding one another's perspectives. Tools for organization and time management can be introduced to ease the load on the overfunctioners and increase confidence. Mason's and Melanie's teachers might be involved in this stage to help integrate the new tools into both the home and the school environment. The tools can be highly customized to each client. Skills for communicating with one another, for self-regulating and expressing emotions, for coping with stress, can be enhanced for everyone in the family, both those with and without ADHD. Mindfulness, yoga, and aerobic exercise are very effective for managing ADHD and for the stress of living with those who have it. One important element of treating this family will be evaluating the need for some trauma work. Parents of ADHD children, especially of multiple such children, frequently present with symptoms of complex trauma, for example, hypervigilance or sleep disruptions, even brain fog. Likewise, children who have ADHD are often on the receiving end of harsh and even abusive reactions from others. Healing any trauma that these family members may have experienced will be crucial to achieving the best possible result. On the chemistry side of things, the pills, the Humphreys can learn about the kind of nutrition that will maximize the performance of their ADHD and neurotypical brains, and there may be supplements that can help restore or maintain a healthy balance of vitamins, minerals, enzymes, etc. then consideration should be made to the medications that are available to them through psychopharmacology. Stimulant medications are often used in order to increase the activity in the prefrontal cortex, but there are other options available. The therapist can make a referral to a knowledgeable prescriber and follow up by guiding the clients in logging the effects of the medications during the trial period so as to maximize the benefits to the client. With this combination of skills and pills, working together as a family in conjunction with the other systems that touch this family, schools, work, community, other resources, the therapeutic team can provide effective and successful intervention for this family. Thank you so much for your kind attention.